All right, we teased it at the top of the show as part of our series of looking at different congressional candidates out there running in different districts. A few weeks back, we did obviously John Avlon, who's running for Congress up in New York in Nick's old district. Now we're going to do somebody who's actually running for Congress in my district right here. Joining us now is Phil Ehr. He's running for Congress here in Miami's 28th district out here in West Kendall. Phil, Mike, and Nick, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast with us.
Well, I am so honored to be here, Mike, and I would very much like your support and your vote.
Well, we're gonna find out tonight, Phil. That's the whole point of this, right? So, I'm super excited to get chatting with you, and obviously your campaign manager Vanessa has been on the education show here at Leon Media Network, so we were able to set this all up. So let's start first, Phil, at a 30,000-foot overview, because obviously Nick and I, in preparation for this, have done some research on you, and obviously I know you've run for Congress before here in the state. You've run against a MAGA candidate before, and Carlos Gimenez is another person that you're going to be running against potentially in November. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, at a 30,000-foot overview for you, tell the audience a little bit about your platform, why you're running for Congress here in this district.
Well, my platform is very simple. It's to act like a congressman and represent the people in a credible and honest way with integrity. Look, our region down here in South Florida is plagued by corruption. Tallahassee is distracted by divisive culture wars, and the folks in Washington, our government, is infected with anti-democratic, they're compromised with anti-democratic forces. And so we need to battle that, but also just as fundamentally, we need a congressman, a representative who is focused on local issues as well. And it's my belief and observations around that, hey, the incumbent is just not doing that. He's so distracted. He's so focused on Fox News talking points, and when Fox News is doing their MAGA brand, he's right there with it. He's a guy that likes the problem, not the solution, and he's just all about that beating chaos and chaos. I've had a career in the United States Navy for 26 years on active duty, and I've advanced from seaman second-class petty officer to retiring at the rank of commander in aviation, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I think. But you don't do that without solving problems that matter, and without doing justice to your sailors and your troops, and being effective. So I'm putting myself forward humbly as someone who can. Well, I know I can do a much better job representing us here in Florida's 28th congressional district.
Commander Ehr, first and foremost, thank you for your service, obviously. Your website over at Ehr, EHR for Congress.us, one of the areas you talk about was improving cost of living. And you mentioned for folks in Florida, reduce Florida's rising cost of living, strengthen Medicare and Social Security. So obviously that's specific to the state of Florida. We've heard a lot about insurance companies leaving, rising costs of expenses in the state. As a member of Congress, how do you see yourself being able to position yourself to be able to fight those battles in a state that does have a rising cost right now?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's very much less about positioning than getting things done. And I would say that, when we're focused on Florida's specific rising cost of living, one might ask, well, what's a federal legislator going to do about that? Well, I'll tell you what, when anything of any level of government is of a concern to, a lot of people, almost everybody, almost every single person in South Florida, it's my concern. And it's Representative Moskowitz, U.S. Representative Moskowitz, who has shown through a bill that he introduced that there is a role for the federal government to play in helping the problem that originated and is neglected by Tallahassee for people. He's introduced a bill that would establish a federal bond for the reinsurance industry to spread out the risk and end up lowering the cost of insurance, housing insurance, and would also help with the recovery from storms. Has that bill seen the light of day? No. Does it? Why? Because it is a forward-looking solution. And there's a lot of partisanship, and I'm not hearing Carlos Gimenez, my opponent, and others in the state of Florida get behind that bill. That's just one example of how that I would be one of these members of Congress who works with local commissioners in the two counties that comprise the 28th district of Monroe County and Miami-Dade County, and really partner with them on issues of the day, be it the insurance costs, be it the national flood program, from NOAA to federal jobs to the transportation needs right here in West Kendall, and the list goes on.
You know, Phil, I want to get to a bunch with you because obviously, like I mentioned, I lived in the district here in West Kendall. So you were touching a little bit about the constituents and constituents' needs, but I do want to get overall for you because now, like I said, this is your third time running for at least either Senate or Congress in the state, and obviously you've gone up against the throes of the Matt Gaetzes and now potentially Carlos Gimenez and the MAGA universe. For the national audience that's kind of tuning into this, that they look at Florida, you know, the running memes and the jokes about, you know, just chop off Florida and let them kind of sail out and be their own thing. And there's always jokes about Florida politics and stuff like that. As somebody who's been kind of entrenched in the state for a long time here, I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit about and kind of expand a little bit more of what you were saying. There are some Florida politicians that are caricatures of themselves right now. Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, Matt Gaetz, the list goes on and on. There's a common through line for that. But I would love for you to talk about it because you're running here to represent this state. So is it overblown as the national audience tends to look at it and national media covers it? What are you hearing on the ground, and what any of that make you want to run even more?
No, it makes me want to run even more. And just to set the plate a little bit more fully with the audience. I was commissioned in the Navy in 1984. That's after earning my degree as a enlisted sailor. The Navy rewarded me with orders to Pensacola in 1984. I picked up my residency here. I love the beaches. I love the no sales or no income tax, and I love the culture of naval aviation. Most of my service was overseas, flying the A6 intruder off the carrier for a tiny bit, but then most of my career was a signals intelligence aircraft flying in the Pacific and the Mediterranean and other places. I say that because that's what ties me to Florida, Pensacola, Florida. That's at the opposite end of the state is where we are now. When I had a full career, family, lovely life, and just having a great time, except for our country is continuing to get in trouble. 2016 happened. I was a Republican. I've been a Republican since age 18. Was basically in a closed primary state, and I wanted to be independent. It was a liberal place where I was in Montgomery County, Maryland. This is before joining the Navy. I just want to make sure I had a vote on the first round of voting more than I wanted to, be purely independent. So I chose a party, chose it based on family tradition and some other factors. But through my 26 years of active duty and after that, I just was not involved in politics. But when Trump happened, I had to. And so, with permission of my wife and family, I called into the Escambia County chair, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving back to our district, my district, and switching parties and running for Congress." And so I came in, and she said, "Welcome." Well, just welcome. Come on in. So yes, I ran in 2018 in that cycle, the cycle right after Trump was elected, and Matt Gaetz was elected too in that first cycle. What astonished me in that cycle was that there are about eight Republicans running in a newly open seat, and not one of them had a single critical word to say about Donald Trump in that 2016 cycle. So it just couldn't stand. I just didn't have a home in the Republican Party anymore. So I ran I came back to the district, ran in 18. I did very well up until the kind of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party that I had just joined didn't think I was good enough or liberal enough. So some of the leaders recruited somebody else who really cleaned my clock in the 2018 Democratic primary. But I got right behind her because this is a team effort to stop MAGA, early MAGA in the form of Matt Gaetz. She lost big. I came back around in 2020, did not have a Democratic opponent because I had gathered the support across the ideological spectrum within the Democratic Party, and demonstrated traction within the independents, or NPAs, we call them here in Florida, as well as regular, normal, like traditional Republicans. And in 2020, I was able to run a full-on general election campaign that was really blessed with all kinds of support, fueled by Matt Gaetz's ever-increasing outrages of a gas mask, and then just one outrage after another. But we did very well. We outperformed most Democrats, including the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020. So I say that to say, and you mentioned the United States Senate, that loss that we got, but still outperforming Democrats, gave me the confidence and the standing to say in 2023, when nobody else was running for the U.S. Senate in Florida with a big name, I said, okay, well, why not me? So I did a viability check poll, and I had 12% recognition across the state, name recognition, which is astonishing. Up in the little corner of Florida and Pensacola, 12%, that's pretty big. So again, after conferring with family, I got in that race. And then Debbie Marcosso-Powell, then she soon thereafter got in the race, and we competed for a number of months. And I ended up standing together with her at a podium, endorsing her to proceed without me to the nomination for the U.S. Senate. And she endorsed me for the 28th Congressional District, South Miami-Dade, in the Florida Keys, where she previously served. Now, in that time, I was making my move anyway to South Florida, so I finished that move. That's what brought me to West Kendall. So I'm very proud to be here, and very grateful to be the Democratic Party's nominee.
Speaking of, you were talking about as a member of Congress, prospectively speaking. So obviously last Thursday, the rest of the country, we heard about the verdict in New York with the former president. Interestingly, we saw prominent House Republicans, members of a federal legislature, having opinions about a case in New York. Regardless of the outcome of November for you, where's your stance on members of Congress having an opinion on local jurisdiction or local legal cases? Because that seems, something about that just seems weird to me.
Yeah, it's unusual, yes. Weird, in this case, worse than weird, awful. Because what we saw by members of Congress, including the Speaker of the House, it wasn't just expressing an opinion. It wasn't just saying, expressing sympathy for the defendant, the newly convicted felon. It wasn't upholding the role of the jury. It was tearing it down. And when you see Carlos Gimenez compare that verdict and compare the U.S. justice system by saying, oh, we're just like Nicaragua's now, or Senator Marco Rubio coming on national or TV saying, hey, this is about, we're just like Cuba's justice system. That is just so wrong, because it doesn't reflect reality. Those comments do not reflect reality. Cuba is a brutal dictatorship with communism. The people there do not have a jury system. The people there do not have a grand jury system to bring charges. And the same in Nicaragua. To equate these two and to start calling us banana republics and everything with that, in the way that they're doing it, sustained over time, is classic, in the academic sense, disinformation, but it's a type of information warfare that's going on in your head, my head, and my constituents' heads, that we need to get over and break the fever. So I think they're absolutely wrong to tear down the Article 3 branch of our government, which is the court system, and they're within the Article 1 branch, which is Congress, the lead branch, to make the laws and the laws are supreme, not anybody else.